Friend Cassandra Ventura, who took the stand as the prosecution's star witness for nearly 6 hours. She testified. What she testified to, based on what we were reading in that courtroom, it was something. It wasn't just alleged psychological torment, physical abuse, sexual exploitation at the hands of Sean Combs.
P. Diddy's fall from grace has hit a horrifying new low. What's coming out now is almost too disturbing to believe. Graphic freak-off revelations, emotional breakdowns on the witness stand, and chilling abuse claims have turned the courtroom into a nightmare. The music mogul who once ruled the industry is now fighting to salvage what's left of his shattered image. This isn't just a scandal, it's a complete collapse. Don't miss out. Freak-offs refer to a series of alleged events orchestrated by Sean Diddy Combs that have come under intense public scrutiny due to their disturbing and controversial nature. According to multiple sources and legal documents, these gatherings were highly choreographed, multi-day sexual encounters involving women and male commercial sex workers, all allegedly controlled and overseen by Combs himself. The events reportedly took place in various luxury settings, including his personal residences, high-end hotel suites, and other exclusive properties both within the United States and abroad. The duration of these events was notably extreme, ranging anywhere from 36 hours to as long as 4 consecutive days. Participants were allegedly expected to remain sexually available and responsive throughout this entire time span. To facilitate this level of endurance and submission, attendees were reportedly supplied with powerful psychoactive substances, including ecstasy MDMA, ketamine, and gamma-hydroxybutyrate GHB, a central nervous system depressant known for its sedative and euphoric effects. These drugs were not just made available, they were allegedly a core component of the gatherings, used deliberately to alter participants' consciousness, reduce inhibitions, and increase their susceptibility to coercion. Combs is accused of exercising near-total control over these encounters. Witnesses and legal complaints suggest he directed specific sexual acts and dynamics, dictating everything from participants' clothing to the use of props, such as baby oil. The intention, according to these accounts, was to transform the events into elaborate, sexually charged performances designed to cater to his personal preferences. These were not spontaneous parties, but highly curated sessions with an undercurrent of power imbalance and manipulation. An especially disturbing allegation is that many of these sessions were filmed by Combs or his associates. The recordings, it is claimed, were not just for personal gratification, but may have been intended as leverage for blackmail, potentially giving Combs power over both willing and unwilling participants. This added an even darker dimension to the events, suggesting a calculated effort to maintain control long after the encounters had ended. Allegations against Sean Diddy Combs have taken a chilling turn, with disturbing claims of coercion and blackmail used to manipulate and control those around him, particularly women involved in his private life and inner circle. According to court filings and testimonies, prosecutors assert that Combs systematically used violence, intimidation, and the threat of public exposure to force compliance and silence dissent. The central tactic in this pattern of abuse, they claim, was the threat or actual use of explicit recordings obtained during the orchestrated sexual events often referred to as freak-offs. These recordings, reportedly captured without full and informed consent, became powerful weapons in Combs's alleged arsenal of control. Victims described an environment in which refusal or resistance could lead to devastating personal or professional consequences. The threat of public humiliation was ever present. One of the most notable testimonies came from singer and former partner Cassie Ventura, who filed a lawsuit in 2023. In her declaration, she stated that Combs directly threatened to release sexually explicit videos of her if she disobeyed him or attempted to leave their relationship. According to Cassie, he told her he would make her look like a slut, using shame and degradation as a form of psychological warfare. prosecutors suggest this was not an isolated case, but part of a broader pattern. Multiple individuals have come forward claiming that Combs used similar tactics, threatening to leak damaging content, end careers, or expose private details to maintain absolute control. For those working in entertainment or dependent on his industry influence, the risk of career sabotage was especially potent. Fear of losing endorsement deals, recording contracts, or access to key networking opportunities allegedly kept many silent and compliant. Physical violence reportedly reinforced this climate of fear. Victims describe being struck, screamed at, or isolated as further forms of control. Intimidation extended beyond direct confrontations. Some claim they were followed, surveilled, or harassed by Combs' associates when they attempted to break away or seek help. This alleged system of coercion functioned not only to facilitate sexual exploitation, but also to ensure long-term silence. With careers hanging in the balance and private lives at risk of exposure, many found themselves trapped. The pattern described by prosecutors paints a deeply troubling picture of systemic abuse, in which power, fame, and fear converged to create an environment where consent was compromised, and victims felt powerless to escape without ruin. The alleged freakoffs and other exploitative events tied to Sean Diddy Combs were not spontaneous or loosely organized gatherings, according to prosecutors and witness testimonies. They were meticulously planned, large-scale operations carried out with the assistance of a carefully managed network of staff. Assistants, security personnel, and other members of Combs' entourage reportedly played vital roles in executing the logistics, ensuring that these events ran with precision and secrecy, often across state lines and international borders. Court filings and raid evidence reveal that the events required intense logistical coordination. Combs' personal assistants were allegedly tasked with making travel arrangements for participants, including flights, ground transportation, and hotel bookings. High-end suites were often reserved in luxury hotels or private residences, sometimes days in advance, to ensure discretion and privacy. In some cases, entire floors or sections of hotels were allegedly rented to keep these gatherings concealed from the public and security staff outside Combs' inner circle. One of the most disturbing aspects of the planning involved the procurement of sex workers. Prosecutors allege that escorts were regularly hired for these events, often through classified advertising platforms such as Craigslist and more elite services like Cowboys for Angels, which specializes in male escorts. These individuals were allegedly handpicked based on physical appearance and expected to comply with Combs' explicit instructions, often dictated down to the clothing they wore or the sexual acts they were required to perform. The preparation also extended to drug provisioning. According to search warrants and testimony, rooms were frequently stocked with a variety of substances, including ecstasy, MDMA, ketamine, GHB, cocaine, and marijuana. The presence of these drugs was not incidental. They were reportedly essential tools for diminishing inhibitions, heightening sexual responsiveness, and enabling participants to endure the prolonged, high-intensity events. Staff members were allegedly responsible for keeping these drugs available and discreetly distributing them when needed. Perhaps the most striking evidence of the industrial scale of these operations came during law enforcement raids, where over 1,000 bottles of baby oil and sexual lubricant were reportedly seized. This staggering quantity, far exceeding any personal or recreational use, pointed to the planned, repetitive nature of these gatherings. Other items included costumes, sex toys, and video recording equipment, further suggesting a level of orchestration aimed at producing a consistent and controlled environment. To counteract the physical toll taken by hours or even days of drug use and sexual activity, IV fluids were allegedly administered to participants. Sources claim that medical professionals or aides were sometimes on standby to rehydrate and revive individuals, allowing them to continue participating or to recover discreetly. This detail underscores the extreme physical demands of these events and the extent to which Combs' staff allegedly went to maintain the illusion of consent and functionality. Sean Diddy Combs' legal defense, spearheaded by attorneys Mark Agnifilo and Ana Estevao, has firmly pushed back against the serious allegations of sexual misconduct, coercion, and trafficking leveled against him. Their core argument centers on the claim that the so-called freakoffs were not criminal acts, but rather consensual encounters between adults who willingly participated in what they describe as a swinger's lifestyle. According to the defense, these gatherings reflected alternative sexual preferences, not abuse or exploitation. Agnifilo and Estevao argue that the events in question, though unconventional and sexually charged, were fully consensual and involved individuals who entered into them freely. They maintain that Combs did not force anyone to participate in sexual activities or consume drugs, nor did he exploit or traffic anyone. From the defense's perspective, the nature of the events may be uncomfortable to the public or unorthodox in moral terms, but that does not make them illegal. To bolster their position, Combs' legal team has cited specific communications and text messages exchanged between Combs and his alleged victims, particularly Cassandra Cassie Ventura. One message from August 2009 has been highlighted repeatedly by the defense, in which Ventura allegedly texted, "I'm always ready to freak off," suggesting not only consent but enthusiasm for the activities. The defense argues that such communications reflect a consensual dynamic and mutual participation in the encounters, evidence that runs counter to claims of coercion or abuse. They also emphasize that the individuals involved were adults, many of them professionals, who had the autonomy to make their own decisions and the freedom to walk away if they chose. In this light, the defense contends, the allegations of sex trafficking are unfounded and sensationalized. They argue that no money was exchanged for sexual services under duress, no one was transported across state lines against their will, and no threats were made that rise to the legal standard of coercion or blackmail. Furthermore, Combs' attorneys have suggested that some of the allegations are motivated by financial or reputational gain. They point to the timing of lawsuits, the involvement of high-profile civil attorneys, and alleged attempts to reach confidential settlements as evidence that some accusers may be exaggerating or fabricating details for leverage. The trial of Sean Diddy Combs has brought intense public attention to a series of deeply disturbing allegations of physical, sexual, and psychological abuse, with the most harrowing testimony coming from singer and former girlfriend Cassandra Cassie Ventura. Ventura, who was signed to Combs' Bad Boy Records and was in a long-term romantic relationship with him from 2007 to 2018, has emerged as the prosecution's central witness, laying bare what she describes as a decade-long nightmare of control, violence, and exploitation. According to Ventura's sworn statements, the abuse began early in the relationship and escalated over time in both frequency and severity. She alleges that Combs subjected her to routine physical assaults that included beatings, kicking, dragging her by the hair, and stomping on her while she was on the ground. She testified that these attacks left her with visible and long-lasting injuries, including black eyes, large bruises, and a permanent scar above her eyebrow. That scar, she claims, resulted from a particularly brutal 2017 incident in which Combs reportedly slammed her head against furniture during an argument. One of the most significant moments in the trial came when prosecutors introduced security footage from the Intercontinental Hotel in Los Angeles, dated 2016. The video, which was first aired publicly by CNN in 2024, shows Combs violently attacking Ventura in a hotel hallway. In the footage, he is seen chasing her, throwing objects, and tackling her to the floor after she allegedly tried to leave a freak-off event earlier than permitted. The disturbing video has been described as a turning point in the case, providing visual confirmation of Ventura's long-standing allegations and lending powerful weight to her claims of physical violence. In addition to the physical assaults, Ventura has accused Combs of psychological and sexual abuse. She testified that Combs used coercion, fear, and manipulation to isolate her from friends, family, and other potential sources of support. According to her account, he controlled nearly every aspect of her life, including her finances, travel, clothing, and career decisions. His tactics reportedly included threats of violence, surveillance, and leveraging his power in the entertainment industry to ensure her continued dependence and silence. Perhaps the most harrowing part of Ventura's testimony involves her claim that Combs raped her in 2018 at her Malibu home. She described the incident in detail, stating that it occurred after a long period of emotional turmoil and threats. According to Ventura, Combs entered her home uninvited, berated her, and ultimately forced himself on her while she repeatedly said no. The trauma of that night, she told the court, was a breaking point that eventually pushed her to come forward and pursue legal action. In powerful and emotional testimony, Cassie Ventura detailed the extensive control and psychological manipulation she alleges Sean "Diddy" Combs exercised over nearly every facet of her life during their decade-long relationship. According to Ventura, what began as a professional association when she signed to Combs' Bad Boy Records quickly transformed into a deeply abusive dynamic characterized by dominance, coercion, and isolation. Ventura testified that Combs systematically took control of her personal and professional life, creating a dependency that left her feeling trapped and powerless. She described how Combs financed her lifestyle, paying for her luxury apartment, vehicles, clothing, and other daily expenses, but made it clear that this support came with conditions. If she disobeyed him or attempted to assert her independence, he would threaten to withdraw his financial backing. On several occasions, she claims he did just that, forcing her into situations of emotional and economic desperation to maintain his dominance. He controlled where I lived, how I dressed, who I could speak to, and what I could say, Ventura testified. If I questioned him or said no, there would be consequences. One of the most chilling aspects of her testimony focused on the way Combs allegedly manipulated her career to maintain his grip over her. As the head of Bad Boy Records, he held the keys to Ventura's future in music, and she claims he used that leverage ruthlessly. According to Ventura, he would shelve projects, cancel studio time, or deny her the opportunity to collaborate with other artists if she didn't comply with his personal demands. She stated that she feared not only losing her career, but also being blacklisted in the industry altogether, a real threat considering Combs' substantial influence in the entertainment world. Ventura also alleged that Combs would routinely use the threat of public humiliation to keep her in line. She claims he frequently reminded her of the freak-off events, sexually explicit, drug-fueled gatherings that he allegedly directed and filmed, and warned her that if she ever tried to leave or expose him, he would release footage to make her look like a slut. This looming threat of exposure, Ventura said, kept her compliant even during periods when she considered escaping the relationship. The psychological toll of this control, she stated, was immense. Ventura described suffering from anxiety, depression, and a profound sense of isolation. Friends and family members were allegedly kept at a distance by Combs, either through intimidation or manipulation, leaving her with few avenues for support. I wasn't just scared of what he might do, she testified. I was scared of losing everything, my career, my dignity, my safety. In addition to the harrowing testimony provided by Cassie Ventura, Several other witnesses have taken the stand to corroborate her claims and offer new insight into the disturbing behavior allegedly exhibited by Sean "Diddy" Combs. These testimonies have significantly strengthened the prosecution's narrative, suggesting that Ventura's experience was not isolated and that Combs's pattern of abuse and intimidation extended to others within his inner circle. One of the most impactful testimonies came from Dawn Richard, a former member of Combs's musical group Dirty Money. Richard, a respected artist in her own right, recounted a chilling 2009 incident in which she claims to have directly witnessed Combs physically assault Ventura. According to Richard, the incident occurred during a heated altercation in Combs's Los Angeles home. She testified that she walked into a room and found Ventura curled into a fetal position on the floor, visibly bruised and trembling after a severe beating. "I'll never forget the look in her eyes," Richard told the court. "She wasn't just hurt. She was broken. There was fear all over her face." Richard went on to describe the atmosphere surrounding Combs as one steeped in fear and intimidation. She stated that while many around him may have seen the glamorous public persona of a music mogul, those closer to him knew he could be volatile and dangerous behind closed doors. According to Richard, when she expressed concern about what she had witnessed, Combs allegedly warned her to stay quiet, ominously saying, "People go missing when they don't know how to mind their business." She interpreted the threat as both a warning and a reminder of his power, not just in the music industry, but in silencing those who might challenge him. Another key witness, Daniel Phillip, a former male escort, provided additional disturbing context. Phillip testified that he was hired to participate in multiple freakoffs, drug-fueled, sexually explicit events allegedly orchestrated by Combs. He recalled witnessing Combs physically and verbally abuse Ventura during these events, including slapping her and dragging her by the arm when she appeared hesitant or resistant. Phillip described a highly controlled environment where drugs like ecstasy, ketamine, and GHB were used liberally and where participants were expected to follow Combs' explicit instructions. "It was like he was directing a film," Phillip testified. "He told people what to wear, where to stand, how to act. If someone didn't obey, he'd lose it. I saw him shove Cassie more than once. Everyone acted like it was normal." Beyond the high-profile allegations brought forth by Cassandra "Cassie" Ventura, Sean "Diddy" Combs is currently entangled in multiple ongoing civil lawsuits that further call into question his personal conduct and the environments he allegedly fosters. These additional legal matters expand the scope of scrutiny Combs is under, suggesting that Ventura's case may be just one part of a broader pattern of behavior involving abuse of power, negligence, and potential complicity in the misconduct of those around him. One particularly notable case has been filed by Grace O. Marquez, who is suing Combs in connection with events that reportedly took place in 2022 aboard a private yacht. O. Marquez's suit introduces new layers of concern, as it also names Christian Combs, Sean Combs's son, as being directly involved in the events in question. The lawsuit accuses Christian of engaging in abusive or inappropriate behavior during the private voyage, while asserting that Sean Combs not only witnessed aspects of the misconduct, but may have contributed to an unsafe and enabling atmosphere. According to court documents, O. Marquez alleges that the yacht party in question was heavily fueled by drugs and alcohol, and that both access to substances and the selection of guests were carefully curated by Combs' staff. She claims the environment quickly became chaotic and dangerous, with little to no regard for consent or boundaries. The trial against Sean "Diddy" Combs has been intensely emotional and graphic, with Cassandra "Cassie" Ventura's testimony standing out as one of the most powerful and heart-wrenching moments in the courtroom. By May 19, 2025, Ventura had completed 4 days of detailed and raw testimony that offered a deeply personal window into the trauma she endured during her years with Combs. Now 38 years old and visibly pregnant with her third child, Ventura's presence in the courtroom underscored the complexity of her journey, from victim to survivor, and highlighted the courage it took to confront her past publicly. Throughout her testimony, Ventura recounted the harrowing experiences of the so-called freak-offs with vivid detail. She described these events as grueling, drug-fueled sexual performances orchestrated by Combs that became more than just episodic occurrences. They consumed her life to the point that they felt like a job. Ventura spoke candidly about the overwhelming feelings of humiliation, disgust, and emptiness that followed these encounters. It wasn't just the physical abuse, she explained. It was the way it stripped away my dignity, my sense of self. After every freak-off, I felt like I was less than human. Ventura's testimony also shed light on the dark coping mechanisms she developed in the aftermath of the abuse. She admitted to regular use of substances such as ecstasy, ketamine, and various opiates, drugs that Combs reportedly provided during the events. Over time, this spiraled into an opioid addiction, which she described as a desperate attempt to numb the pain and trauma. "The drugs were the only way I could get through the days and nights," she said quietly, her voice trembling. Without them, the memories were unbearable. One of the most poignant moments came when Ventura recounted a particularly dark episode in 2023, long after the abuse had ended. She described experiencing intense suicidal ideation triggered by traumatic flashbacks from her time with Combs. In this moment of crisis, it was her husband, Alex Fine, who intervened. Ventura spoke of how Fine's support was instrumental in encouraging her to seek professional therapy, which marked a turning point in her healing process. "Without him, I don't know if I would be here today," she said tearfully. Despite the emotional toll, Ventura emphasized the reasons behind her decision to testify. She was clear in rejecting the defense's claims that her accusations were motivated by financial gain. Instead, Ventura framed her testimony as a moral imperative. "I'm here to do the right thing," she declared firmly. "Not just for me, but for all the others who have been silenced and forgotten. I want to give a voice to survivors who are still afraid to speak out." Cassandra Cassie Ventura's testimony had a profound and palpable impact on the courtroom atmosphere throughout the trial, marking a turning point in how the proceedings were perceived by jurors, spectators, and even Combs' own family members. From the moment she took the stand, the emotional weight of her words and the harrowing details she shared created a somber tone that lingered long after she left the witness chair. Jurors were visibly affected by the rawness of Ventura's accounts. Several observers noted that her testimony was delivered with a solemnity and vulnerability that made it impossible to remain indifferent. The detailed descriptions of the freak-offs, including the extreme drug-fueled sexual encounters and the physical abuse she endured, were deeply unsettling. When explicit images and video evidence from the events were presented, some jurors shifted uncomfortably in their seats, their faces betraying a mixture of shock, distress, and empathy. These visuals were graphic and relentless, depicting scenes that went beyond mere allegations to tangible proof of the extreme nature of the events. The courtroom, normally sterile and detached, felt charged with emotion and tension. The reaction among Combs's family was markedly different, revealing the personal strain the trial had imposed on those closest to him. His mother, Janice Combs, along with his children, notably left the courtroom during the most graphic portions of Ventura's testimony. Sources familiar with the trial report that they found the content too difficult to witness firsthand and chose to step outside rather than endure the painful details being aired in public. Their absence during these moments underscored the deep personal toll the trial was taking on the Combs family, highlighting the conflict between familial loyalty and the disturbing nature of the accusations. In stark contrast, Ventura's support system remained steadfast. Her husband, Alex Fine, was a constant presence in the courtroom throughout her testimony, providing visible support and comfort. He remained seated beside Ventura during the majority of her emotional recounting, except during the discussion of the 2018 rape allegation, where he respectfully excused himself to give her space. Ventura's family members, including close relatives and friends, were also present, often seen offering silent encouragement and comforting gestures. This show of solidarity was widely noted by those attending the trial and became a poignant counterpoint to the more fragmented presence of Combs's family. During the defense's cross-examination of Cassandra Cassie Ventura, Sean Diddy Combs's legal team strategically sought to undermine her credibility by focusing on aspects of her past communications and financial settlements that could be construed as evidence of willing participation and potential ulterior motives. The attorneys, led by Mark Agnifilo and Anna Estevao, used a combination of textual evidence, settlement details, and psychological interpretations to challenge the narrative of victimhood that Ventura presented during her direct testimony. One of the defense's primary tactics involved highlighting texts and emails exchanged between Ventura and Combs that seemed to suggest her enthusiastic involvement in the infamous freakoffs. For instance, they pointed to a 2017 text message in which Ventura reportedly wrote that she loved the freakoffs, an assertion meant to imply that her participation was consensual and even pleasurable. The defense argued that such communications demonstrated a level of agency and willingness incompatible with claims of coercion or abuse. Ventura, however, was prepared to counter this line of questioning. She clarified that these texts should not be taken at face value, explaining the complex and coercive dynamics underlying her communications. She testified that her apparent enthusiasm was often a survival mechanism born out of fear of the repercussions that could come from defying Combs, who wielded immense power over her personal and professional life. Ventura described how she learned early on that expressing resistance or refusal could lead to violence, career sabotage, or public humiliation. As a result, she portrayed the texts as coded messages, performative compliance rather than genuine consent, crafted to appease Combs and protect herself from further harm. The defense also spotlighted Ventura's significant financial settlements related to disputes with Combs and his affiliated entities. Specifically, they referenced a $20 million settlement she received in 2023 from a civil lawsuit against Combs, as well as a separate $10 million settlement with the Intercontinental Hotel, which was tied to the infamous 2016 incident where Combs allegedly assaulted her in a hotel hallway. These settlements were presented to the jury as potential motivations for Ventura to fabricate or exaggerate her allegations for monetary gain. Following Ventura's exit from the witness stand, the prosecution shifted gears by presenting corroborative voices and physical evidence to substantiate her allegations. One of the first key witnesses to testify after Ventura was Dawn Richard, a former member of Combs' girl group Dirty Money. Richard offered first-hand testimony about a violent 2009 incident in which she witnessed Combs physically assault Ventura. According to Richard, Ventura was curled in a fetal position on the floor, visibly battered, after a confrontation with Combs. She also testified that Combs threatened her into silence with chilling words. People go missing when they talk too much. Richard's testimony further supported the prosecution's claim that a culture of intimidation surrounded Combs, effectively muting those who might have otherwise come forward earlier. Another pivotal witness was Homeland Security Special Agent Yasin Binda, who gave detailed testimony about the evidence seized during a series of raids conducted on Combs's properties earlier in 2025. Binda described rooms that were allegedly prepared for freak-off events, with luxury hotel suites and private residences stocked with alarming quantities of illicit materials. Authorities recovered large sums of cash, multiple types of illegal drugs, including ecstasy, ketamine, and GHB, and over 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricants. 4 bags and hydration fluids were also found, which prosecutors argue were used to revive participants who were physically depleted from prolonged and drug-enhanced sexual activity. Binda testified that the volume and organization of the materials strongly suggested premeditation and logistical planning, reinforcing claims that Combs orchestrated and maintained a long-running operation of coercive sex trafficking. Looking ahead, the prosecution is preparing to call additional accusers, most notably a woman publicly identified only as Jane. According to court filings and prosecution statements, Jane was romantically involved with Combs in 2020 and is expected to testify about similar patterns of coercion, control, and abuse. Her testimony is anticipated to demonstrate that Combs's behavior extended beyond his relationship with Ventura, establishing a pattern of conduct essential to the prosecution's trafficking and abuse charges. The courtroom dynamics surrounding the Sean Diddy Combs trial have added another layer of intensity to an already emotionally and legally charged proceeding. With each passing day, the trial has drawn widespread media coverage and public fascination, underscoring the immense cultural weight of the case. The combination of a high-profile defendant, celebrity witnesses, explicit allegations, and sensitive evidence has made it one of the most closely watched legal battles in recent memory. Crowds have formed outside the courthouse daily, with some spectators lining up as early as dawn to secure a seat in the gallery. Media vans cluster on the surrounding blocks, and journalists rush to capture sound bites and reactions from attorneys and attendees. The public's interest in the trial is not only rooted in Combs' fame as a music mogul, but also in the disturbing and deeply personal nature of the allegations, which range from sexual coercion to physical assault and psychological abuse. Inside the courtroom, Judge Arun Subramanian has maintained a strict and focused schedule, determined to ensure that proceedings move efficiently and without undue delay. The judge has also had to navigate unique challenges presented by the trial's subject matter. For instance, due to the emotional and physical strain of testifying, special considerations were extended to Cassie Ventura, the prosecution's key witness, who is visibly pregnant with her 3rd child. Her welfare during testimony, such as breaks, hydration, and emotional support, has been closely monitored and respected by the court. Another critical issue has been the handling of sensitive evidence, with the prosecution referencing a large number of videos allegedly recorded during so-called freak-off events. Judge Subramanian ruled early in the trial that explicit content would not be made publicly accessible or widely disseminated. He cited the need to protect the privacy and dignity of alleged victims, while also acknowledging the intense public and media interest in the case. Jurors have viewed selected content in private, and court transcripts referencing graphic material have been partially redacted. The courtroom has also become a stage for family support. Combs's mother, Janice Combs, and all 6 of his children have appeared at various points during the trial. Their presence has been visibly emotional, offering reassuring glances, subtle hand gestures, and even heart signs directed toward Combs, who often responds with nods or hand-over-heart gestures. Their show of solidarity is not lost on the jury or the public, as the defense seeks to reinforce Combs's image as a family man, amid allegations painting him as controlling and abusive. These courtroom dynamics reflect more than just legal strategies. They reveal the broader emotional and psychological currents flowing beneath the surface of the trial. Whether in the measured rulings of Judge Subramanian, the visible strain on witnesses, or the unwavering support of Combs's family, each moment adds a deeper human dimension to a case that continues to grip national attention. Public sentiment surrounding the Sean Diddy Combs trial has been intense and deeply polarized, with social media platform X, formerly Twitter, serving as a central arena for debate, speculation, and outrage. As graphic testimony and sensational details have emerged, ranging from alleged freak-offs to reports of over 1,000 bottles of baby oil seized during federal raids, the public response has ranged from disbelief and disgust to skepticism and conspiracy theories. One of the most viral moments online came in reaction to early reports about the stockpile of baby oil and lubricants allegedly used during the events in question. Posts quoting this detail quickly circulated, with users expressing horror, mockery, and confusion. 1,000 bottles of baby oil? That's not a red flag. That's a siren, wrote one user, while another quipped, "This isn't a freak-off, it's a slip-and-slide Olympics." These reactions often used humor as a coping mechanism to process the disturbing nature of the allegations, but they also served to amplify the trial's notoriety, helping the case trend repeatedly on X. At the same time, a noticeable faction of users has expressed doubt over the credibility of some witnesses, pointing in particular to unverified rumors about a supposed missing witness who was expected to testify but has not yet appeared in court. While no official confirmation has been provided by prosecutors or defense counsel regarding the identity or status of this individual, speculation has nonetheless flourished online. One popular post read, "So the key witness just vanishes?" Sounds like someone doesn't want the truth out, while another cautioned, "Let's not forget this is still unconfirmed. We need facts, not theories." These conspiracy-tinged narratives have only fueled further division in public opinion. Supporters of Combs have seized on the unverified claims as evidence of a potential smear campaign, suggesting that media and prosecutors are pushing a narrative rooted more in spectacle than truth. "This trial feels more like a show than a search for justice," one user posted. Meanwhile, others have defended the credibility of the alleged victims, emphasizing the courage it takes to testify against a powerful figure like Combs, especially in such graphic and emotionally charged terms. The polarization on X reflects a larger cultural split. While some see the trial as a reckoning long overdue, akin to the Me Too movement's spotlight on abuse in the entertainment industry, others frame it as a dangerous example of trial by media, where salacious headlines and social media reactions threaten due process. What do you think about the latest developments in Diddy's scandal? Leave us your comments in the section below. We hope you have found this helpful video. Don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you like it. Thank you for watching this, and see you in the next videos. Goodbye, videos.